So other than the pick is in play and maybe we're a player in free agency, what, if anything, did you take away from what Steve Staios had to say?
That he is moving picks and he is getting right now players. And, oftentimes throughout, whether it was his main avail or the interview that he had on our station, which people can find on our website, he would talk about, the number 9 pick and calls are coming in and alluding that, yes, you could possibly just make the selection and do some other things. But I said this yesterday morning. You just said it a few minutes ago. They're not picking at 9. Like the whole plan here is they are fielding interest right now. They have a plan in place, what they want to execute, and that plan is to move that pick and other assets to acquire probably more than just one player that's going to come in and help this team right now. They've got a lot of cap space. They have an appetite to spend that money. They have an appetite to move some future assets, some of them that they acquired in the Brady Tkachuk trade. And also, I wonder, because of course he did, he reiterated this yesterday, that we had a plan heading into the offseason. Now that plan's changed a little bit, more than a little bit, because Brady Tkachuk wanted out and we've traded Brady Tkachuk. Could there be roster players moving as well? Not just picks and prospects, maybe. Could there be some roster players moving? And you're really, rejigging the roster that way. So it's a disappointing week for Sens fans. It's still sinking in that Brady Tkachuk is no longer a member of the team. But it's also an exciting time to see what comes next because they have a lot of flexibility.
Brady Tkachuk, by the way, he's going to be introduced down in Florida at 11 o'clock this morning. News conference scheduled, so we'll hear from the now former Sens captain today as well. It will be interesting, and I'm not sure whether they will be able to Zoom some people in and whether some Ottawa media or some national media from Canada are going to be able to ask some questions or whether it's going to be some friendly folks down in Florida, and it'll all be just about Florida.
It'll be kumbaya.
It'll be the latter, I would imagine.
I hope there's, and listen, I just like, just a good straightforward question of why did you ask out of Ottawa? I hope that question is asked. That's kind of the question that now, he'll give, I'm sure, a very diplomatic answer. I think that he would recognize that the news is bigger than being just down in the Miami area, would spread across the entire landscape of North America, including here in Ottawa, that he would recognize that probably shouldn't say just be all super excited about Florida and dissing my time in Ottawa. He's smart, and I think he is. He's smart enough to do that.
After that, though, I don't think Sens fans, I can anticipate it won't go well in this market when he joins the Pat McAfee show later in the day as well with his brother.
Right.
Matt.
And probably his dad.
That'll be all America.
Yeah. So I think that's around 12:30 today that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So that'll be going on. Of course, yes, Keith going into the Hall of Fame, and Keith Tkachuk acknowledged yesterday was a good weekend for the Tkachuks.
Wow.
So here we are.
Well, before we get to that, what stood out for me from Steve Staios yesterday was the fact that his feelings on the need for change wasn't really from the post-season sit-down with Brady Tkachuk. It was the statement of during the regular season, as the season progressed, things seemed like it was a miss with Brady. And that is something, Jer, that you brought up a lot with the play of Brady Tkachuk, that it was not the same Brady Tkachuk that we've seen in the years prior, but that Steve Staios picked up on it, that there was just something during the entirety of the regular season that caught Steve Staios' eye. And I believe the quote was, something was amiss through the regular season. And that's what kind of twigged him onto the fact that something might be wrong here. And there might be changes coming sooner rather than later. And it wasn't the postseason sit down. It was through the regular season.
So he saw what we all saw. We talked about it all the time. Fans would text in about it. They call the post-game shows after some. Everybody saw it.
And I don't want to call it a checkout.
So
but it's something to a checkout because he wasn't playing to his same standard.
I didn't say this on air yesterday, but this is a term I thought of, kind of a COVID era term, quiet quitting. Was there a bit of some quiet quitting going on? Whereas, you know what, I'm playing, I'm the captain. I'm saying mostly all the right things. I'm picking up points and I'm playing, but I'm not totally into my job right now. Here
Invested?
in this environment. I'm not fully invested.
I just, I said this yesterday. I just find that I know there's a lot of people that are down on Brady Tkachuk right now, but if I just think about him as a player and at his best, it's like, just don't think he has that in his DNA. I know his play seemed to reflect that this year, so I'm kind of arguing on both sides, but you know, there was a time, a long period of time, where Brady Tkachuk was absolutely the guy you'd want in the foxhole with you, right? So it's hard for me to square the thought of Brady Tkachuk being that guy beside you, and then all of a sudden he's kind of, well, to use my term from yesterday, half-assery, becoming a half-assery. Like it just doesn't square with me on that. Like, I know it appeared that way, and people want to say that. I don't really have a counter argument to it.
Like, I'm not saying he didn't go full James Harden of going out of his way to look like he doesn't care. When Harden did that a couple of years ago when he wanted to move on again from another situation. But it was back to the original question here, what Steve Staios had to say, and Hammer brings up a great point. That's a theme now from what Staios said yesterday. And it's like, I noticed it throughout the season, and especially after the Olympics as well. Like, and there's been a lot said about that in the last couple of days. And I know that, Friedman reported yesterday that it was a problem in the room. It was tense. One player told him it was tense for a few weeks post Olympics as well. So,
well, we talked about it in January. Fans brought it up, right? Are we going to see the same Brady at the Olympics that we're seeing in the regular season? And if it's not, if it's the same Brady that we've seen some from seasons past, well, then there's going to be some questions to be answered of why are you putting forth, 100% effort at the Winter Olympics, and we're not seeing that same Brady when you've got a Sens jersey on. I don't think that was the case. I don't think we saw what we saw from Brady at the Four Nations that we saw at the Olympics. It was a completely different player again.
Yeah, he wasn't nearly as effective at the Olympics. So he basically was a pretty average player all year, including at the Olympics.
Agreed.
So his entire season was just kind of off. Now, derailed early by an injury, and who knows what impact that had in its entirety. But even when healthy, his game never rose to the level that we have seen in seasons past here in Ottawa. So, yeah, the GM said he noticed that, absolutely. But so Brady Tkachuk will speak today. It'd be interesting to see what he has to say. 11 o'clock this morning. Certainly will be lots of reaction to that down in Florida. A couple other updates from what Steve Staios had to say yesterday regarding the players that are still here. He said that there's been some preliminary talks with Batherson and Zub, both of whom are eligible for extensions as of July 1. So they got 1 year left in their deal, so they could sign an extension as early as this summer. So prelim talks there. On Jordan Spence, who's a restricted free agent, talks are ongoing. That was the only word he used for that. And on the idea of re-signing unrestricted free agents like Claude Giroux and Nick Cousins, specifically those two players were asked about, he said, it'll all depend on if and what we get back in a trade. So those two in particular would appear to be on hold until they kind of do all the other stuff. And I think it sounded like he imparted that message to both of their camps as well. I would think of the pecking order, Giroux is ahead of Cousins. And I'm sure Claude Giroux, who didn't sign last year until a couple of days before July 1st, kind of would understand that let's see what this week brings, possible trades, what bodies are brought in, and then they'll get to Claude Giroux. Because I think both sides have an idea of what the money's going to be with Claude Giroux. It'll be fairly similar to last year's deal.
I think Claude Giroux signs this week.
This week?
I think he does. I think he signs this week. And Steve Staios also, well, sometimes it's not exactly what you say, but he did reference during his main avail, I just talked to Claude. He's downstairs here for a workout. Yes. I mean, like, he's in the building. He's working out. You're chatting with him. I don't think Claude's going anywhere.
Yeah, I do think he's going to get signed eventually. If it's this week, that would be interesting just based on what he had to say yesterday.
Yep.